Hi guys, I wanted to do a storytime video about my pre-eclampsia experience. The reason that I'm doing it is because I was not too long ago discharged from hospital and I was looking for severe early onset pre-eclampsia videos and was really unable to find them. A lot of people were like, I had pre-eclampsia at 25 weeks, I had pre-eclampsia at 30 weeks. And that's horrendous, but mine came on earlier than that and there were no videos about it, and I couldn't find really any good experiences and any positive videos, and it was mostly like blog and forum posts, you know, my baby died, oh my god, blah blah blah, and I just thought those were not helpful for me. That was not what I wanted to see when I was in hospital. What I wanted was someone to just share their experience in a way that wasn't really like sensationalist and was just somebody talking about what had happened to them. So because I couldn't find it, I thought that I would make the video about my experience. So just to give you a bit of a sort of insight, I got pregnant in May this year. My baby was due in early February 2018, and I was really worried about this pregnancy. I'd had a previous miscarriage and I was really worried that my miscarriage was going to be this thing that was going to be like a recurring theme in my life, and that when I got pregnant again it was going to happen again. So I ended up being scanned at 7 weeks, 9 weeks, and then 12 weeks, and then I had another scan at 18 weeks. And 18 weeks was when I think I really let go of a lot of my fears, because we were definitely in that sort of safety zone. So although obviously you can't be 100% sure that everything's going to go well, that appointment went really, really well for us, and he was doing so well and he was growing really well, and there was no obvious, you know, health problems or defects, and we were really, really happy about that and positive. So then 19 weeks and 4 days, I think it was, I had a midwife appointment. So I went to see my local community midwife. This is a community midwife is one that's not based at the hospital, so you see them out in the community. So I went to the medical centre to go and see her, and she was the midwife that I'd had from my first pregnancy. And the appointment went really, really well, and then right at the end she did my blood pressure. She wasn't happy with it and she sent me to the hospital. So I went to the hospital because that was what I was told to do, and they kept me there for 4.5 days, I think 5 days. Basically my blood pressure was really high, but because I was before 20 weeks they didn't know if it was preeclampsia, because that would be really, really early to get preeclampsia. For those of you who are maybe going through it and kind of understand about the proteins in your urine, my protein was at 60, and like the kind of acceptable-ish level is 30. So my protein in my urine, which is like one of the markers of preeclampsia, that was higher than it should have been, added to my high blood pressure, and they were diagnosing me with early preeclampsia. That's what they thought. But to be absolutely certain I didn't have an underlying kidney condition which was causing the protein, they got a kidney specialist in to see me. He said to me, I actually kind of hope it's a kidney issue, because if it is, we'll sort it. We can give you medications, we can sort that for you. If it's preeclampsia, that's not such a good thing. And I said, okay, but I wasn't really unduly worried about it because I knew loads of people who had preeclampsia and still had gone on to have successful pregnancies and healthy babies and that sort of thing. That was perhaps a mistake. If you have been diagnosed with early onset preeclampsia at the kind of 20-week mark, you should be a bit concerned, and you should definitely be doing everything that your medical professionals tell you to do, and you should go to all of your appointments, and you should see your midwife, and you should go to the hospital when they tell you to go. Don't think it's going to go away. Don't think that you're too busy for it, because I did kind of have that attitude. I did think like, you're overreacting. They weren't overreacting. If you're thinking about not going, please don't think that. Please go to your appointment. So anyway, I did exactly what I was told. I was given medication. So something that I wasn't aware of was that not all medications work on all ethnicities. So I went there, and the first drug they tried me on to lower my blood pressure was called labetalol, and it didn't work on me. Apparently it doesn't always work on people of my ethnicity. So they moved me on to a drug called nifedipine. I was specifically on one called Adalat Retard. And basically it's a slow acting kind of drug which releases, I think, gradually over time, and it reduces your blood pressure. If you don't know why it's bad, why high blood pressure is bad in pregnancy, in layman's terms, and I'm obviously not a medical professional, your blood carries oxygen and nutrients and everything, and your heart works really hard to do that, even when you're not pregnant. And then when you get pregnant, you've obviously got more work for your body to do. And getting that oxygen and those nutrients around your body and to your baby is really, really important for them to be able to grow and become healthy. If your blood pressure is higher than it should be, it means your heart is working really, really hard, and it means that the baby can't necessarily get all of the nutrients that it needs, and that can cause problems with the placenta. And basically it's just bad. It's bad. And if you have protein in your urine, it means that your kidneys are not working the way that they should be. And if you think about it like a sieve, your kidneys should be like really, really fine mesh sieve, and the proteins shouldn't really be able to get through. And then you get pre-eclampsia, and your kidneys aren't working properly, and the gaps become bigger, and the proteins are able to go through. And if the proteins can go through, it means your kidneys are not working properly, and it means your organs aren't functioning the way that they're supposed to be functioning, and that is a bad, bad thing. So anyway, I was in the hospital, I was on this medication, and they wanted to monitor my blood pressure, so they put me on a 24-hour blood pressure monitor, sent me home for 24 hours, made me come back, and then had a look at the blood pressure monitor and kind of told me what to do, and told me that I needed to come back to the baby clinic on the Wednesday. I'd been discharged on the Sunday, and in the meantime I needed to be seen in the community, in my case by my doctor, to have my blood pressure taken. So I did what I was told, and I went to the blood pressure, I went to have my blood pressure done at the doctor's, and I was given a sick note. And I also went to the baby clinic at the hospital on the Wednesday. And long story short, they told me that they wanted to see me every 3 days. And I thought that they were overreacting. I still went every 3 days, but I did genuinely think that they were overreacting, but they weren't. I didn't take it as seriously as I should have done. I didn't appreciate my pregnancy the way that I should have done. And that's all with the benefit of hindsight. So a week later, I was going on one of my regular trips to the hospital, and I was supposed to be seen by a doctor, and I was just kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and I was like, I'm supposed to be at work. Like I've been here for like 2 and a bit hours, I'm supposed to be at work. Either let the doctor see me or I need to go. Eventually a doctor did come and see me. I was late for work and I wasn't particularly happy about it, I'm not gonna lie. And they said to me basically, it's really important that you come to these. We are concerned, we're gonna send your bloods off as an urgent matter. And when we get them back, if there's any problems, we're going to give you a call. So I did get a call later that day, and I was told to come in the next day. I wasn't told that I was going to be admitted, but I was. And that was my last admission until I was discharged after I'd given birth. I was in hospital for 3 and a bit weeks, maybe 4 weeks, and I was monitored very, very closely. Every single 4 hours, day or night, doesn't matter if I was sleeping or not. They came and they did my vitals, they did my temperature, they did my pulse, and they did my blood pressure. And I was fed up. Oh my God, was I fed up. I wanted to go home. I hadn't seen my house in weeks. I hadn't seen my dog. My husband was coming to see me, and my parents were coming to see me, but I still wanted to, you know, be out and about, and you can't go anywhere and you can't do anything. You can't see the sunshine. There's strangers everywhere. You can't cook your own meals. Like, oh, I was done. I was ready to go home. I was not happy. I still kind of thought they were overreacting, but they weren't. And one of my doctors came to see me, and she said to me, I don't know if you know how serious it is, but I think you need to know that there's a very real chance that you're not going to be going home with a baby. And I burst into tears, kind of in that way that you see in the movies, where you go from being absolutely fine to being in floods of tears in like 2 seconds. And I called my mum, and I couldn't even get the words out. I just cried down the phone, and like 15 minutes later she was sitting in the room with me, and I was devastated, and I was 21 weeks pregnant. And a long story short, about 5 days after that, my waters broke. I'd got a puncture not long after I'd been told by the doctor. Now, I didn't realise that you could even get a puncture in your waters, but it turns out that you can. And basically they just leak. They just leak. And you're obviously at very high risk of infection, because those waters are what keep the baby safe. And I was rushed down to the high dependency unit, and I was told, you know, there's a very good chance that I'll give birth today, because a very, very high percentage of people whose waters break give birth within 24 hours. But thankfully I didn't. And I was hoping. I was really, really hoping that I was going to be the exception, because not everybody gives birth as soon as their waters break. You can go like a month or 2 months with your waters breaking. Now, that doesn't happen to everybody, but it can happen. So I was really, really hoping that I was going to be in that category. But exactly a week after my waters had punctured, my waters broke at 11:52 on Saturday night. And by 5:04, he had been born. And I mean, the whole thing was really, really, I mean, it wasn't ideal. It wasn't the way I pictured it. And for me, the weirdest thing was that I had not prepared for giving birth. Like, I wasn't there yet as far as preparing for how I would be. You know, I hadn't gone to any antenatal classes or anything like that. I'd never had a baby before. So I wasn't really sure what to expect. I've watched One Born every minute, but I don't think that gives you like a real understanding of what it is to give birth. So it took 5 hours. It was incredibly quick. I was on morphine, which it turns out I was allergic to, which I didn't know until I was actually having the morphine and violently throwing up. But unfortunately, C-section and epidural were not an option for me. I was on gas and air for like the first part of it. I was in the high dependency unit, and I had just so many wires coming out of my hands. Both hands were hooked up to a machine, and also I had an arterial BP thing in there. I don't know what you call it, but basically instead of having a cuff on your arm to measure your BP, there's like a big screen, and it like monitors it in real time. That's painful. And I gave birth. And I'll do another video on, you know, what the actual birth was like. But it was breech, because he was not in the right position, because he hadn't, you know, moved into the right position, obviously, because he came so early. And unfortunately, he did not make it. But he was beautiful, and I love him. And he weighed 1 pound, and he was about this big, and he looked exactly like me. I've grown as a person since it happened, and I've learned a lot, and I massively appreciate the work that is done by medical professionals. I was at the women's hospital, so obviously there's a lot of people giving birth when you go to a women's hospital. Massive maternity ward, massive antenatal, you know, loads and loads of midwives around, lots of pregnant people around. And after it happened, I was put in a suite, which is kind of set away from the maternity ward. After I'd come out of the high dependency unit, I was in the high dependency unit for about 28 hours after I'd given birth, and the vast majority of the staff that I encountered were amazing, and I can't thank them enough. And if you do have preeclampsia early on, you are going to come into contact with a lot of doctors and a lot of professors and a lot of midwives and a lot of care staff, and hopefully you will have a positive experience with them in a situation that is perhaps not going to have a positive outcome for you. So if you have gone through this, please know that mine isn't the only version of this story. There are people who have had early onset preeclampsia and gone on to have healthy babies, perhaps born at 28 or 30 weeks. So it might be really early, but they've gone on to have positive outcomes, positive results. And I was really fortunate because there are, you know, poor outcomes for preeclampsia. So you really do need to take their advice. If they give you medication, you need to take it. If they tell you to go to your appointments, you need to go to them. And try and relax and rest. And I know that it's really hard because I was restless. I had things I wanted to do. I had things booked. I had a holiday booked. I was moving house. I was trying to do up the baby's room. I had a dog and a husband and a life. And I really didn't want to put those things on hold because I really didn't take it as seriously as I should have done. And I think I maybe took things for granted in a way that I shouldn't have done. And I really want to help other people understand that it's really, really important that you do basically what you're told. They're not doing it for the sake of it. They're doing it to give you and your baby the very best chances. So if you're told to be on bed rest, just be on bed rest. Honestly, just be on bed rest. I'm going to be doing some more videos going into more specific areas. I was trying not to make this video too long. But if you are in the situation that I was in, I wish you the very, very best. I really, really, really hope that everything works out for you, and I hope that you have got something out of this video. I hope that it was maybe helpful, and if you're watching it and you know you're not the person that has preeclampsia but you're maybe supporting somebody who does, you know, they're going to need all the support that they can get, and I hope that you do some research, and if you take anything away from this, you know, try and be positive and listen to your doctors, you know. Thank you for watching. Good luck.